this t-shirt. So go to InfoWarsStore.com, get yourself the InfoWars Hexagon logo t-shirt for $14.95 with coupon code WARROOM. And thanks to all your support as we are under relentless attack right now, trying to remove us from the internet. Now, joining me is Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, who is very familiar with the attacks. Of course, he was literally attacked when he showed up at Elizabeth Warren's town hall. Now, the irony of this is that, A, Elizabeth Warren won't debate him, okay? So she won't even acknowledge him. She's so racist. She won't even acknowledge the brown man. So the Whitey Warren is such a racist, she won't even acknowledge the brown man. So Dr. Shiva shows up at her town hall event and is just standing outside, executing his right to free speech, when he becomes a living meme when an Elizabeth Warren supporter comes over wearing a T-shirt that actually says liberal, punches the megaphone that Shiva is holding, and then even busts his lip open. So a living meme now is Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai. He joins me now. But Dr. Ayyadurai, what do you make of the latest wave of censorship against InfoWars and Alex Jones?
Well, first of all, Owen, what's going on is completely anti-American. But what's happened is that over the last 30, 40 years, the attack on free speech has escalated. And it's primarily been because the corrupt politicians and the career politicians in Washington have no idea about what's going on in the world of technology. So you have a bunch of morons basically involved in lawmaking, and they don't even understand technology. And this is what happens when you get a bunch of morons who get elected, who participate with lawyer lobbyists, and that entire process. For years, Owen, you know, I've been talking about the fact that, and this may seem archaic, but isn't, you know, when the founders of this country set up the First Amendment and the Second Amendment, they created something called, which may seem old now to us, called the Postal Service. And the Postal Service was created by the vision of Benjamin Franklin that you and I, in those days, it was print mail letters, would be able to transact communications without anyone getting in our way. It was the thing that affected free speech. And if anyone interfered with that communication, Owen, it was a 20-year life sentence in prison, right? Over the last 20, 30 years, the Postal Service has been completely gutted. We're made to think like they're a bunch of people who don't do their work, when in fact, you know, you still send a letter today and it reaches anyone. So I've always proposed that we need to build the Postal Service of the 21st century. And that means that the Postal Service should host, at least give people the opportunity of a free public email service, free public social media, because that would be governed by the laws of the Constitution, that if anyone interfered, it's a 20-year life sentence. With Apple, with Facebook and Google, what they did to you guys, it shows what happens with the collective power of the globalist imperialists who want to shut down speech that they don't like, exactly like that liberal whitey guy punches me in the face because I go out of his narrative.
Can you believe that cracker would hit a brown man?
Exactly.
What a honky.
You know, exactly. And if you think about it, Warren, my 85-year-old dad was out there asking Warren to apologize. He said, I came here with $75 in my pocket, and at 85, I didn't want to see my son getting cracked, by a whitey, a honky, as you said. But that's what Warren has affected, and that's what the white liberal racists in Massachusetts are all about. They're the big racists. They're the ones who want to suppress free speech. They're the architects, I'm sure, if you went through this entire process of who was behind InfoWars being shut down, you'd probably find a handful of professors at Harvard, Owen.
So could this be what Shiva Ayyadurai was talking about? Huh. So if you look closely, sure that there is a Harvard graduate behind it.
And that's the truth.
Oh, well, absolutely. And a lot of this has actually even been traced back. I mean, it's shocking when you look at how many judges and professors and politicians came out of Harvard Law. It's like, how is that not one of the biggest stories in America? But I digress. You've been on top of that. But, you know, here's the thing, too. I've met a handful of politicians. A few of them I could say I'm friends with. Dr. Shiva is as real as it gets, folks. And we just need more real people in Congress when it gets down to it. But, you know, you say something that I've been thinking for a long time, and we have a precedent now with public utilities. So I'm not sure exactly how this would be done. But essentially, And I agree with you. We need to turn basically email and social media somehow, some way into public utilities so that free speech can exist on those platforms.
And the framework for that was charted by the founders, which was the United States Postal Service. The problem is, in 1997, I met with the Postal Service senior officials, and I said, you know what? That was a year, Owen, when email volume overtook postal mail. And I met with these guys, and I said, you should be offering a public email service. And they just laughed at me. Oh, we're bigger than Walmart. We're in the postal mail business. We're not in email. Well, in 2012, literally about 14 years later, they're going bankrupt. And I wrote an article in Fast Company, and I said, these idiots should have listened to me because they could have made a lot of money, and they would have been in the 21st century.